the speakers suggested that there's a problem that the ecological movement was too middle class. I've been trying to measure that against our experience in Toronto. Of course, it leads to meditation on what do we mean by middle class. It's sometimes used to mean any worker who has a bit of an education, but we should remember that a lot of workers have an education now. It is a factor that education is a factor in ecological consciousness, in my experience in many street corner discussions. But at the same time, our committee is the first radical organization I've ever been involved in that has decided to raise a fund to enable its members to pay their bus and subway fares. We just not encountered that problem before. So I would say let's not be so quick to say these are privileged people. Another thing is we do take initiatives to deal with the visible demographic problem. For example, our next public meeting is going to be on Bangladesh, because there's a big Bangladeshi community in where we live, and their concerns about the environment tend to relate to their homeland. So we take initiatives like that. And we see how well we can do. One thing relating to what Rafif said is we decided from the outset this is not a committee of the left, this is a committee of the community in its mainstream, but we are committed to Indigenous land rights. That we cannot organize in the ecological field without that as a starting point. Now, on the question, you see, I talked about unity in action. I wasn't talking about parties, and Kate did, so I should try to stray onto her terrain at least a little bit. And see, she didn't speak about our Quebec Solidaire, which is part of the set of new left parties. It's about 10 years old. It gets about 10% of the vote. And I mentioned it in the first session. But one thing, when it started up, I noticed was that it was not functioning through fractions in the social movements, and at first I thought this was a mistake. But I think actually they're right not to do that. They're right, the social movements have got to be autonomous, they've got to run their own affairs, and the job of the political party is to support them. So there, I think that's an example of doing it right, and it's helped their reputation with the social movements. Another thing is, yes, obviously Quebec Solidaire faces a problem of bureaucratization and of drifting to the right. I'm not saying that's happening all that much yet, but the potential is there. But all this depends very much on what happens in the social movements, and that's where we are, you see. So for example, I'd say their biggest problem right now is that a lot of progressive people in Quebec have bought into this hysteria about the veil, you know, the hijab. And there's a move to cut people who wear the hijab out of the public service, at least in jobs where they meet the public. This is a big problem for Quebec Solidaire. A lot of its members are sensitive to this. And on this question, a very important role is played by socialist activists who are more aware on this question and who make the point that we want unity. We're not fighting the garment struggle. We're fighting the class struggle. We're trying to unite all people in the class, regardless of what clothes they wear. And some of us wear pretty funny clothes too. So anyway, that's okay. Now to end, then I'll just thank you all for a wonderful discussion today. Most of you good comrades I don't know. I would like to know better. So let's bear in mind possibilities of working together in the future. Thank you.